Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. It's Andy here from AM Media Games, and in this video I'm going to show you how to set up something that looks like this with your own custom flags. It's a very quick and simple tutorial, very easy to set up. So without further ado, let's jump in and I'll show you how it's done. So as you can see here, we have two flags. Both of these flags have simulated cloth physics with animations created in Blender. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and hop over into Blender. So let's get rid of all of this because we don't want these anymore because we're going to recreate them anyway. So we have a nice empty folder to import our asset into. So we're going to go into Blender. So open up Blender 4.0. You can get the latest version over on Blender's website. I'll put the link in the description and a few little bits of other information that you might need. So we have a blank scene. To get this blank scene, the first thing we're going to do is go to File, New. Oops, wrong one. File, New, and then General, and you'll see that you have a light, a camera, and the starter cube. So we're going to press A and to select all, and X to delete. Excuse me, apologize for my cough. We're going to open up our keystrip visualizer. Perfect. So we have that here on the screen so you can see which keys I'm pressing, just in case you haven't got audio. So we're going to add in a cylinder. So spawn cylinder. So Shift A to open up the spawn menu. And we're going to click on add cylinder. Just have a drink, 1 second. Right, okay, so we're going to click on add cylinder. And we're going to add that into the scene. We're going to scale that up. So we're going to select that face by going to edit mode. So we're currently in object mode. We press tab to go to edit mode. We press free or click here to go into face selection. This will enable us to select this top face. And then I'm going to press G and the Z key for Zulu. And we're going to move that up. Let's scroll out a little bit. Let's move that all the way up. Let's create a pipe or a pole shape. There we go. And then press A to select all, press Alt S. We're going to scale that in. Perfect. Okay, so now we have our flag pole. And then we're going to edit this a little bit to give it a little bit of better geometry. So we're going to zoom in on this top face, left click on our cylinder, press tab, press free to go to face selection, select this top face, X, and then delete face. I'm going to press 2 to select edge mode, which is this one. I'm going to hold Alt and left click on this top edge here that's going all the way around. And that'll select it. We're going to press E and S to scale inwards. And then E and S to scale in. Once we've done that twice, we're going to go and click on face and then grid fill. And this will give us this nice geometry here. We're going to select our grid fill drop down box or our open menu here. And we're going to change the offset just so it's straight. So we have a nice straight line running through. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can then bevel this top edge. So go to edit mode, select edge selection, select this top edge. In object mode, select the entire mesh, Control A, and then set rotation scale. Go back to edit mode. It'll already have that ring selected. If it doesn't, just Alt left click to select it. Control and B to bevel. And then we've got a nice bevel on that edge. There we go. So we're going to auto smooth. I'm going to do the same for the bottom of the flagpole. So edit mode, face selection, select face, X, delete faces, press 2, edge selection, Alt left click, so we're going to select the loop, and then ES to extrude inwards, ES to extrude in, and then to face, grid fill, and then change the offset so it's nice and straight. So you have a nice straight line there. Okay, so I'm going to bevel that edge as well. Select that edge, Control B, give it a little bevel. So now we have a flagpole. We need to create the flag, right? Because we can't have a flagpole, or we can have a flagpole without a flag, but it wouldn't look very impressive or cool if we had it in our games. So, excuse me, we're going to select our menu again. So Shift A, we go to Mesh, Plane, and this will drop in a little tiny square mesh or plane at the bottom. We're going to press G and Z to move it all the way up. And then in this location, we're going to press R and then Y90. It's very windy outside. Jesus. Okay, so I'm going to press G and Z to move it down. And now we're going to scale this to our flag size. Let's move that out on the Y. And then we're going to press tab to go into edit mode. We're going to press 1 to select vertices. We're going to select these two vertices by dragging. Press G and Y to move them out. Select these bottom two vertices. Press G and Z key to move them down. And now we have our flag shape. Okay, so now that we have our flag shape, we need to give this subdivisions or extra geometry. Excuse me. So to give this extra geometry, we can add some loop cuts, but we need to make sure that we set the scale. So select it, Control A, rotation and scale. And then we're going to go into edit mode. So select our plane, go to edit mode. So tab key, press Control R to add a central loop cut on the vertical. And then once we've done that, this menu will open up down at the bottom left. This is our number of loop cuts. We're going to select 32. We're going to do the same on the horizontal now. So we're going to go Control R and then move the mouse into the center between these 2 points. And you'll get this nice horizontal line. We're going to left click, right click to centralize. And then we're going to select 32. Press enter. So now we've got more faces. And the reason we're doing that is because the cloth simulation needs more geometry data or face data so it can simulate the cloth by displacing and warping and moving and manipulating the faces so it simulates that cloth better. The more faces you have, the more realistic it'll look. Obviously, the longer it'll take to simulate. But yeah, so that's how we do that. There are other ways of doing it, like subsurface, subdivision modifiers and stuff, but that's one of the quickest and easiest ways to do it. So now that we've done that, we need to make sure that we pin some parts of this side to the pole so it doesn't just fall down. Because if we add a cloth modifier to this now and simulate, gravity will pull the cloth to the floor and yeah, nothing will look good. It'll just fall. So we're going to select our plane, go to edit mode, go press 1 on the keyboard or select vertex mode, vertex selection. And then we're going to select these top 3, these 3 here, and select these roughly around middle, 1, 2, 3, and then these bottom 3, 1, 2, 3. So these are going to be our pinpoints. I'm going to try and neaten that up a little bit. Is that about right? Maybe that one. Yeah. So then we've got top 3, middle 3, bottom 3. And then what we do with these selected, we're going to go over to our data panel, which is this green triangle. Looks like a UFO. And then we're going to click on plus. And then we're going to click on assign. Make sure they're selected. Assign. And we can name this to our pin point for cloth. We don't have to name it, but it's sometimes helpful when you've got many of them. So now we know that this is our pinpoint for the cloth. It can't simulate these points, but it will lock it in place in the world so it can't fall to the floor. So now that we've done that, we can go into our plane again. So select our plane, and then we're going to go to modifiers. We're going to add modifier. We'll go to physics and cloth. There are other ways of doing this. We can go to the physics panel and then click cloth. We can go to cloth here and go to presets and then select silk. Scroll down, because now we have these pin groups, but we need to tell it not to simulate. So we need to give it the information by selecting shape and then pin group. So make sure you're on the details panel. So I'll show you how to get to this. So we click on our cloth or our plane. We should have a cloth modifier. Click on properties and then scroll down. You see shape, pin group, select, pin point for cloth, which is what we pin point for cloth, which is what we named it. And we're going to select that. So now that it has the information it needs to not simulate those points. What we're going to do then is going to scroll down a little bit more to collision. We're going to select collision quality to 4, and then we're going to check on self collision. And then if we simulate this, you'll see that it will simulate cloth. But the problem is that there's nothing to tell it to collide with the cylinder. So we're going to select our cylinder, Control A, rotation scale, select our cloth, Control A, rotation scale, move our cloth on the Y so it's just about touching the pole, like so. And then from here we can simulate again. Let's have a look. Excellent. Okay, so select it, make sure we have a preset of silk, and then what we're going to do is select our pole, click on physics, which is this one, go to collision, select collision, and then click space and simulate again, and you'll see that it will now actually collide like so with the pole. You can see there that it's touching the pole. Perfect. So now we have our flag and we have our flagpole. The flagpole has collision properties, the cloth has collision properties, and it's simulating as cloth. So now that's all set up. Now all we need to do now is add some wind. So to do that, we're going back into our object mode, Shift A. From this panel, we're going to go down to force field. Now we're not making some kind of Star Wars game. We're only going to select wind. And then we're going to click on that, and that will bring this into the scene. So now that we have that in, we need to tell it that we want it to move this by giving the wind some kind of properties or speed, in a sense, or strength. So you can see on this panel on the side, we're currently set to 1. Now because this cloth is massive, it's huge, it's going to take quite a lot of strength to move it. So we're going to move this up, press G and Z with it highlighted, move it up, and we're going to rotate that on the X. So the arrows are pointing to the direction we want the wind to go. We're going to move that out a little bit on the Y, just so it's like this. So it should look something kind of like that. Then we're going to select that again. We're going to go to strength, and we're going to set this to 3500. We're going to give it a noise value of about 3. And we're going to leave those details. I'm going to press spacebar, and we can see there that we have a very gusty, a very well simulated cloth effect, which looks, in my opinion, really good. Now you might be noticing something. It looks like it's from Roblox or Minecraft, right? So there is a fix for that. We can click on it and shade smooth. So now it looks a little bit better, but it still looks a little bit blocky and grainy. So how do we actually fix that? Now that's not a difficult thing to fix. I'm going to go back to the start, and then we're going to open this up and have a look to see that we actually have quite a lot of geometry data for our simulation. But what we can do, select our plane, go to modifiers, and we're going to add a modifier. Now this one is called a subsurface or subdivision modifier. Generate subdivision surface modifier, this one, and that will give this more geometry. You can notice it actually rounded those edges off. So if we press spacebar this time, it looks a lot better and looks a lot more like a silky cloth kind of flag, right? So we have that set up, and now what we can do is we can bake this animation. So you can have a play around with this. It's really kind of fun to learn and to mess about with. So you can change the amount of wind and effects. So you go into physics, because obviously the wind is a physics property, sorry, the wind is physics data. So we click on physics tab with the wind selected, and we can adjust and change these parameters according to how we want it. The lower this value, the less the amount of wind strength there'll be, so it will blow a lot more gently. Noise is how much interference. So imagine you had a hairdryer. It's a consistent amount of air flowing from the hairdryer on the lowest setting, and as you increase that setting, that will be your strength. So when you go from 1 to 2 to 3 on a hairdryer, that would be the strength being increased. Now the noise would be the interference between those gusts of wind. So when you increase the noise level, you're then increasing the sputter, or like it's kind of like blocking the wind and then releasing the wind, blocking it, releasing it. So you have a little bit of variation. So it's kind of like gusts in a sense. I hope that makes sense. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's my interpretation of it. I don't have any official training in Blender. I'm all self-taught, and I'm just teaching you what I've learned over the time. So now that we have that done, we need to select our flag. We're going to go to the cloth data panel, which is this one. If you can't find it, just go into your modifiers, the spanner, and then, or the wrench, and then go to cloth and then click on object properties. You can see here that we have a section called cache, and then in here now we have what's called simulation start and end. Now these are your frames, so we can see that we're starting on frame 0 and we're ended on 250. So it starts on 1, ends on 250. So what we're going to do is bake this. So let's click the bake button, and you'll see that it runs through the simulation, baking all of that data. And then what we can do is we can start on like maybe frame 30 and end on a different one. So we could just have like this effect, or if we want to, we can have the full effect. So I'm going to start it on 40 or 30, I think. Actually, I'll just export it as is. I'll let you guys play around with those settings. So now that we've baked our data, we can do more with this. So what we're going to do is we are going to transport this from Blender into Unreal with that data baked into the animation. So we're going to select our two objects, so the pole and the cloth. We're then going to go to File. We're then going to go to Export, and we're not going to use an FBX. We're going to use an Alembic ABC. Yeah, which is this one. So it's the reason we pick this is it's quite special. It means that we can use simulations from Blender into Unreal. So now that we have our Alembic properties open, we can see here that we have frame start and frame end. So if we wanted to, we could select, let's export from frame 30, and let's export only from 30 to 250. So let's leave as is. And then down here we can see we have our subdivisions that we've already applied. And then when we look at that animation, you can see there that it looks pretty great, right? So now that we've got that done, we can then go to export. Let's give this a name. So tutorial flag physics v2. I'm going to export this Alembic file. So I'll just have a quick drink. And now that we've done that, we can then go into Unreal and go to a place where you want to store this, and then we need to import this now into Unreal. So in Unreal Engine, you're going to create a new folder, wherever you want to store this object and all of its data, its files, the textures. Make sure you keep it as tidy as you can and just have it in a separate folder. So we're going to go to Import. We're going to go to Documents. I'm going to click on our Alembic ABC file, tutorial flag physics, which is what I named it. And we're going to click Open. And this is going to bring up a panel that you may or may not have seen before. And we're going to make sure that we check that we're bringing in a import type of skeletal. So this will bring in the animation attached to the skeletal mesh of the object that we've just created in Blender. So make sure we highlight both of our objects. And you can see here that our start frame is 30 and our end frame is 250, with our number of frames being 221. So we're going to go and import this now. So make sure import type is skeletal with both of these selected, and then click import. It might take a while because it has to bring in all of that baked data, and it also has to bring in both of the meshes, including all the subdivision on the cloth mesh itself, which is perfectly fine for Unreal. It might not be so great to use this for things like Unity. I'm not too sure. I know that Nanite handles cloth physics, geometry data really well, especially with LODs and stuff. So I'm not too sure how it will work in other game engines, but this is a tutorial for Unreal. So bear with me on that one. I apologize if it doesn't work. I'm just showing you for Unreal. So you can see here that we have our physics, we have our animation, and we also have our skeleton or skeletal mesh. What we're interested in right now is our physics, or our animation one. So we're going to grab the green one, drop it into our scene, and you can see that it's really, really small due to the scaling problem inside Blender. It measures it differently to the scale inside of Unreal. So we're going to increase the size of this. We're going to bring this and rotate it. So we have our flag. You can see already that it's already in that frame 30 pose, which looks really cool. You could do this for like a game that pauses. That'd be really awesome. So we have our flag there. You can see our anchor points where we selected our vertices, sorry, and they will keep it attached to the pole. So now when we go into the game and press play, you can see here that it simulates and plays the animation that we baked into the mesh, which I think personally looks absolutely brilliant. And if you were to put like maybe like a flag or something on here, you could adjust and play around with the animation in Blender just so you don't end up with this this skipping at the end. So you could have gusts or something in between to make it more of a cubic animation rather than linear. Probably said that the wrong way around, but yeah, so you can see that pause. So there are ways to fix that. It's just about how you set up your animation in Blender, but I haven't got the time to go through all of that information in one video. So yeah, so that's it for this one. A quick reminder that it has only got normals on one side, which is not a problem. All you have to do is make sure that you set your material. So in your material properties for your object, when you bring in your material file, you need to make sure that when you select your material, you check on two-sided, and this will draw the texture on both sides. So you can see here that we have my logo for YouTube for tutorials, game design, level design, which was very kindly done by some of my subscribers, so thank you very much. I don't want to butcher saying your name, but you know who you are, so I appreciate you. But yeah, so this is done by a subscriber, and you can see here that when I checked two-sided, we've got the texture running on both sides. So that's all you would have to do for this. So you're going to select your mesh and then apply the two textures here, so, or just one. It's up to you, however you want to set out your textures. But yeah, that's it. And if you want to unwrap this in Blender, what you'd want to do is select your pole. You're going to select UV editing, and then in UV editing you're going to select this outer edge here, and you're going to select this inner edge that runs down this seam, and then the same down at the bottom. You're going to select this outer edge here. Now you've got this, that, and the top one. You're going to press U and mark seam. And then to do the same with this, you're just going to go and into edit mode, click on synchronize, and then you're going to go U, unwrap. It's done. Select your pole, U, unwrap. That's done. select this and the pole, tab into edit mode, go to UV, click on pack islands, and then click OK. And you can see here that we have our flag pole and our two top pieces. Press 3 to go into face selection. Press L and L to select both of these, move them up, and then scale them up to give them some more texture detail. And then if you were to then export this, now that it has a map on, we can export this one as an alembic and export, let's do frame 1 250. And then if you go into Substance Painter or some kind of painting software, and then you can then, should allow you from here, select your ABC, and then that will then, excuse me, that will then bring that into Substance, where you can bake some texture maps onto it. So let's get ID thickness. Let's do 4K, none to 16s for anti-aliasing, and then bake. And you can see here that it's got nice clean UV there, and then it's baking that perfectly. So you've got a lot of texture detail. You can see how dense those squares are on this flag, which will give you a lot of texture resolution to put on a really detailed texture, or just lots of drawing space. So that's done. We can now draw on this. You know, you can write a message. Thank you guys for watching. Like, share, and subscribe if you think it helped you. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for this video. I'll quickly show you how to export this texture and then apply it in Unreal. You know, I'm here, I may as well do it, why not? So we're gonna grab excuse me, we're gonna grab let's just do this synthetic cloth. We're gonna grab that material, and then we know that it's now on the pole, but we don't want it on the pole because that's just silly, right? So we're gonna click on this, and then we're going to add a black mask to it, and then we're going to go to select, and then object select, and then select this mesh, and now we can see that the texture is only on the flag. And then what we can do then is we can go to smart materials. Let's, instead of making our own, and let's just throw on maybe like steel paint, and then you can see there we have now a textured paint on our flagpole. All we need to do to correct this is we just need to change the hierarchy on our layers panel. So anything that's at the top is above everything else. So what we need to do is just drop that below. And now we've got a separate texture for our flag and a separate texture for our pole. And then if we want to put that into Unreal, so we're going to go to File, Export Textures. And then what we want to do is we want to select where it says Unreal Engine 4. We're going to go up to PBR Metallic Roughness. We're going to click on Default Material, uncheck Height and Emissive if you have those. And then back into Global Settings, make sure you select a folder where you want to store your texture. You're then going to click Export. So you should have exported your base color, roughness, metallic, and normal. Go back into Unreal Engine. We have our flag without a texture on. Open up the content browser to where the flag is stored. Import your textures. And then you're going to select your default base color, which is this one. Right click, create material. Open that up. You should see a screen similar to this. And then we want to connect all of our materials up, so we're going to grab our normal map, which goes into normal, our roughness, which goes into the roughness one, and then our, last but not least, our metallic, and that goes into metallic. I'm going to click apply, save, and then now that we have our flag selected, we're going to select created, and we're going to assign that to both of these slots. So we can see there that we have now our flag with the cloth and the steel pole. We click play, the texture is working fine, and the pole's got its texture on. If you look on the back, you'll notice that it's got no material assigned. To fix that, it's very simple. We select our flag, open up the texture, make sure we highlight this one, and then click on two-sided, click apply, let it do its thing, click save, and then you go into the level, you'll see that the texture is on both sides. So there we go. Any questions, leave them in the comments. Any more help needed, you can join me over on Discord. If everybody wants to donate to the channel to help support it financially, you can do so. No pressure to do it. Hit that subscribe button to help the channel out for free. And remember to click that like button. It helps out with the YouTube algorithms. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.